If you're locked in with that artist and you're like their main producer, it's very like comfortable. It's very free and flowing. But if you got sent there by like your manager or an A&R and stuff, it can be a really like closed off and stressful environment, especially if it's your first time there.
In April of 2024, Atlanta producer Metro Boomin secured his first #1 Billboard Hot 100 song, along with going #1 on the charts. Like that sparks rap's biggest beef of the year. When looking at hip-hop culture and media, rappers and their aesthetics are the main symbolism. But since the 2010s, their producers have emerged as equal stars. 2019 saw Billboard launch a Hot 100 producers chart with rap a genre.
People want to know now. They not like us, the video, but now we gotta know, is there gonna be a Meet the Grams video?
In the music industry and the DJ world, you fired the first day you hired. You know, you only good as your last hit.
Yeah, I never start off with drums. I usually just start off with a sample or like I make like a melody idea and then add drums later.
When me and Future, like, it's easy, we got the chemistry. I was 18 and just like ready, you know what I'm saying?
I would say my birth name, but most people in my life don't even call me that anymore. For short, I go by Icy, but my full stage name is Icy Chill Out. I am a producer and songwriter.
I was a DJ first because my brother had a crew called High Fidelity in Queensbridge. It was like a DJ crew and they kept the equipment up in the house sometimes. Marley Marl said in a recent interview with the Pennsylvania public radio station, the Queens musician was hip-hop's earliest youth participant, enamored with a sound and culture at the time that seemed extraterrestrial. Marley's career is that of a pioneer, creating sample-heavy productions in hip-hop music, and altering program drumming. He wasn't the last to progress the genre, and when weaving together rap's key periods, there's always an important producer in the background. The 80s introduced the culture's favorite white guy, Rick Rubin, a Jewish Long Beach, New York native who founded Def Jam Records, along with Russell Simmons in 1984. Post the 2000s, and that title arguably belongs to The Alchemist, a white kid from Beverly Hills with a sincere love for hip-hop and whose most recent producing credits can be found on Kendrick Lamar's Meet the Grams. Rappers turn producers or producers turn rappers is pretty common now too. Dr. Dre led that duality in the 90s with the formation of NWA and Death Row Records. Kanye West was a producer held captive for Rockefeller Records in the early 2000s. Other notable rappers who produce include Tyler the Creator, MF Doom, Chief Keef, and many others.
How do producers meet rappers to work with?
Mainly through social media. I mean, there sometimes is a middleman, but most of the time, especially in this day and age, it's through social media. We spend so much time on our phones, so we just end up messaging each other.
Would you consider rappers loyal to their producers?
I feel like I might get canceled for saying this. Most of the time, no. There's so many like scenarios and stuff, especially if you look at if they want to change to a different sound, they'll leave their producers in the past. Like, there's examples of where it's true, like Metro Boomin and 21 Savage have worked together forever, Southside and Future, but there's so many examples where it's just like, oh, well, you know, Pierre Bourne and Playboy Cardi move on to a whole entire different sound, and Pierre Bourne got left in the past.
We don't have time or the luxury to spend all of this time doing one song. We don't have it.
Fast forward a little bit. Word starts to spread, mid to late 90s that Jay doesn't actually write any of his rhymes down.
Sony Digital said it best. When we come to the studio to work, that's how I look at it. But there's certain people that will bring like 30 people to a studio session, and just because they need that energy. And then there's some people who are very closed off. But most of the time, if they have a manager, it will be the manager, artists, some producers, and that's it. I've like written songs and it'll take 5 minutes, and then I'll seen some of the greatest songs like that have taken almost 3 hours to just write and like record and stuff. But most of the time, especially with punch-in rappers like the Baby.
And what are
Roddy
punch-in
Ricch.
rappers?
I think New York Times published an article about it. So punch-in rappers, instead of like just writing typically how rappers used to do back in the day, they'll say a line like their mumbles and stuff, and then go back through the mumbles.
Honestly, like I do mumble tracks whenever I record, like I just do the first melodies and first sounds that come to my head.
Producers get played. I know producers that's popping that's complaining about niggas' albums that dropped months ago that none of us got paid off. These niggas out here touring, making millions of dollars, bro. And we're trying to beg the label to pay us a measly bullshit-ass fee? That's why it's dope what Metro Boomin just did with his album. That's a good push for producers. I'm in full support of that, West Coast producer Hit Boy said on the Back on Fig platform. In November 2018, Metro Boomin released his debut studio album, Not All Heroes Wear Capes. 2 years later, he released a collaborative album with 21 Savage titled Savage Mode 2. Both albums went #1 on Billboard 200 albums charts. Last year, he curated and produced the soundtrack for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. In terms of wealth or equity in the rap producer industry, he's an outlier, a producer who's cultivated a marketable brand identity that keeps income flowing. For everyone else, though, it's a long and hard grind not only to the top, but to stable income. For female producers, it's even harder, facing misogyny in a male-dominated industry.
You have to put in a whole lot of work. It's not an easy job, especially because it's not like it was when I first started out. You can't just sell beats and stuff. I mean, like work on records and get placements and stuff, because there's so much music coming out and stuff, and if you're not consistently at the top, you're broke. Like, it's always been a known trope that if you're a musician, you're either rich or you're broke. There's no in between. Like, a lot of producers and stuff will work on the biggest records and they're struggling to like pay bills and keep their lights on and stuff because they never know when the next song is going to come out. We get paid quarterly through royalty checks. Sometimes we sell beats and stuff, but most of the time it's through BMI. There's different types of royalties. I can't remember. I know there's mechanical royalties. There's a master royalties, but labels pay in quarterly, and the like artist unions and producer unions and stuff pay in quarterly. So we get checks 4 times a year from different entities.
Got it. And can you explain the whole percentage split in the credits? Like, what percentage of the song's revenue would producers be getting versus like the rapper?
The producer, I know on BMI, it's split. So it'll equal up to 200% instead of 100%. So there's the producer side and there's the artist side. So there's the people that made the music, and then there's people that write it. Producers get like a percentage of the master. We'll get like 2 points or something. It depends on how like big you are as a producer and your working relationship. Credits can be fun to deal with, because there's a lot of songs that I worked on where I never got credited for. Some of that is because I was okay with taking more money on the percentage side, or like getting a bigger check to begin with. When Hate Me by Trippie Redd happened, me and Stolen Cable knew that the song was there and stuff, but we weren't contacted when the album came out, so we had to like threaten with legal action for it to like get cleared. But it happens sometimes, but most of the time it just really depends on how the label does business or not, or if you worked with them before. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite genre for like the past 2 years. So instead of it just being normal drill, it's hornier. It's extremely horny. The production is very like playful. It's not as harsh as like regular New York drill.
How would you explain the wave of producers being popular in mainstream, like Metro, Mustard, Mike Will Made It? Like, now they're superstars themselves.
I think they created a brand for themselves. A lot of producers don't. They're okay with being behind the scenes, but when producers decide to like make albums with artists, it causes them to get attracted by those fan bases, and then people are like, oh well, I've never known who this person is. And then you hear their tags too, their tags help a lot because they become synonymous because they work on the biggest songs in the world. Like you hear Metro Boomin on pop songs. Like they became superstars because they wanted to stand out. They wanted to have their names attached to the songs instead of just being sitting in the back.
And how do you feel about like that wave of producers like wanting to have like a brand image? Do you think it's like the good sustainable way to go about it, or do you think they're selling out?
I think it's way more sustainable, especially with how social media is changing and stuff. You have to be a brand. You can't just sit there and be like a worker. You're either a boss or you're a worker in my eyes, and they decided to like take it up a step. And hip hop, it's really simple, especially with how songs are getting shorter. So you have an intro, a hook, verse, hook, outro. Like most songs nowadays don't have 2 verses. And that when there are 2 verses, I like longer songs, but a lot of people's attention span isn't there anymore. So all songs really need is a verse, and if you have more than a verse, you might be overdoing it. Like if you look at Playboi Carti's more recent stuff, it's just 1 verse and that's it. So mixing is most of the time it involves stems. Stems are like the separate elements of a beat. So you would have the drums separated, the melodies, the 808, which is the boom boom. So, and then an engineer would take the vocals and set them like volume wise, and then they would also bring into effects and stuff like cleaning up the vocals, like what the annoying frequencies are. And then there are also sometimes they'll master is like making all of it just sound smooth and loud as possible. When it comes to the artists and stuff, if I have like a good working relationship with them, I'll tell them how they can deliver a line, how to properly use their tone and stuff. But most of the time I try to sit back and let the engineer do the vocal coaching. Most engineers don't mix right in the session. Like they'll do a rough mix, but most of the time they'll come back like a day later or whenever the artist needs them to mix it, because you need fresh ears to mix a song. Like ear fatigue is a really big thing, and it's really bad for artists and stuff. So I forgot who I got the email from for Trippie Redd, but that happened by accident. I remember I was staying up until like 3 a.m. working on beats and stuff, and I sent that melody over to Stolen Cable, and then he finished. He sent it back to me, and then I sent it to him. I've only met him once in person. I worked with him a few times, but Hate Me was the only song that really came out. All of it was through email and stuff, and really never worked in person. With NBA Youngboy, on the other hand, before Seeming Like It came out, I met him in the studio, and he told me my beats were trash. Like, I should quit producing. Then, like a year later, I was working with J-Bo. I forgot what song he did for Rihanna, but it's like one of her biggest songs. He's signed to Mike Will Made It. He was like one of my mentors and stuff, and I kept on sending him melodies and stuff, just trying to like create opportunities for myself, and he used that melody and it happened to turn into Seeming Like It. But I've worked with NBA Youngboy numerous times in person. He likes his producers. Like, once you start working with him and stuff, he's a caring person to the producer. I'm not gonna act like there's stuff about him that it's not controversial and stuff, but he's not that difficult to work with.
Je m'appelle Kajali Kouyaté, je suis sénégalais d'origine. Je viens d'une famille de musiciens, les griots de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
I always grew up in a household where music was always played, and it was a variety of stuff. And hearing music come from so many different places and different types of people.
Do you know like when producer tags started really being a thing in hip hop, or particularly in rap music, or they just always been there?
I think they've always been there, and if there haven't been tags, there's always been like a sound that people can have. Um, like, like Filthy. Before he had the Wake Up Filthy, it was just a phone. Or Zaytoven would use like a piano roll to like start out a song. Cardo would always use the same cowbell, which, oh my gosh, that cowbell just lives in my head. My city, like, I'll say the States, the Carolinas, like Jetson, Milan Makes Beats, there's so many producers that come out of those states that just have such a big impact on my sound and throughout like music in general. But it wasn't until like around 2015 when Trap Soul came out, and I was just in love with the project, like from the writing to the production to the cover art. I wrote a whole entire paper my freshman year in college about how Trap Soul is the greatest album of all time, in my opinion. Because a lot of people, they'll go on YouTube and stuff instead of just like finding a friend to do it. I try to like find artists and stuff that I consistently work with and stuff, so they recognize the voice. And I wanted to keep it short and simple, so it's not the corniest thing in the world. Like, I have a tag which I don't use at all because it's corny. It'll say, "Yo, I see that shit is dope," and I'm just like, that's not something I would. There's starting to be Ian clones, which I think is crazy.
Can you explain who Ian is before you go in?
He's a I don't want to come for him, but he's a basic looking white guy. Who he just did a song with Lil Yachty called "Hate Me," but he's signed to the same management as Casey Pluto. Casey Pluto did stuff on Kanye's like gospel album. Ian, he makes like, I wrote it down in a note because I really didn't know how to explain it. If I had to give it a name, I would say Zaytoven New Glow, because it takes like the old Gucci Mane Zaytoven style, and then it like combines like how glow music is starting to make a comeback into rap music. Like Trippie Redd did a whole entire album on it. Summer's biggest songs are like that type of music. It's like old trap melodies with newer trap drums, if that makes sense. The wave he was on before it, nobody will mention it, but I really do think Young K.O. was doing it before Playboi Carti, like the exact same way, and people don't really talk about him because he never really got big when he signed to 300 under Young Thug. Wolfface Joey, he's an up and coming like Jersey.
Same, I've heard of him. He's so, like, I had heard him before Cash Cobain, and then I heard Cash Cobain again. I was like, they're so similar, but Wolf is like doing some cool stuff too.
Connie, I don't know if you know who Connie is. Like the new wave of Jersey club and like coming out and stuff, it's unique. Tendai, I don't know how to say his name. He's a British-based artist. He combines R&B, rap, and indie music, and it's a really unique blend. Rema is like considered Afrobeat rap, so like his latest album's really unique.
Can you also like talk a bit about like current projects you're working on? Do you, along with producing, do you rap or sing yourself?
Sparingly, but I do it from a songwriting standpoint, and like jokingly, like if I post a song, it's because I just wanted to out of fun. But projects I'm currently working on, there's not a lot, but there's certain artists I've been working with consistently. Quite the artist, he's a really talented artist. He currently has like 100,000 listeners on Spotify. He's one of the most unique and creative artists I've ever met. He's from Florida, but his music is just so, he makes mainstream music and he's not mainstream yet, and that's just, he makes hit songs. That's all Quay is. Quantrell, he's an R&B like old, he reminds me of Bryson Tiller. His pen is very versatile. He's from Charlotte.